Sri Akal everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. Sat Sri Akal everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. Sat Sri Akal everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. Sat Sri Akal everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. Sat Sri Akal everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. Sat Sri Akal everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. Sat Sri Akal everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. Sat Sri Akal everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. Sat Sri Akal
Namaste everyone. Welcome to Sarab Akal ICMF 2021. I'm Shruti Tangirala on behalf of the Sarab Akal Music Society of Calgary. We've been organizing this festival from 2016 thanks to all of your support. We've had very eminent artists like Ustad Shahid Parvez Khan Sahab, Kaushiki Chakravarti, Pandit Padma Bhushan Rajan Sajan Mishra, Pandit Ajoy Chakravarti, Ustad Ashish Khan Saab, Ustad Tafu Khan, and they're just a few who have graced our venue. We would like to thank you and our sponsors, volunteers, and audience for their continuous support. This year, as part of our initiative to promote the multiculturalism in Canada, we are collaborating with an Indigenous artist, Chantal Chignon, and her team to start off the program. Chantal is a Cree Ojibwe Metis singer, drummer, storyteller, workshop facilitator, and a social justice advocate. Coming up is an interview where she gives us an insight into her background and Indigenous art and traditions, which will be followed by her team's performances.
Hello everyone, welcome to Sarab Akal TV. This is Sunita Alokam, and thank you for joining us to meet our special guest artist, Chantal Chignon. Chantal is an accomplished artist. She is a Cree, Metis, Ojibwe singer, storyteller, drummer, and much more. Chantal and her team would also be performing for us at ICMF 2021, which is coming up very soon. Please join me to welcome Chantal to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
Hi Chantal, so glad to have you with us here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited for this event.
For sure. So Chantal, you're an accomplished artist with who is specialized in Indigenous arts, culture, and music, with roots in Muskeg Lake Cree Nation.
Yes.
Could you please share your experiences of growing up in a Cree Nation in Saskatchewan?
Well, unfortunately, I am what they call an urban Indigenous person, so I've always lived in cities, whether that be Edmonton or Calgary, but I do go back quite often to visit family out there. But it's still in my heart, it's still in my very being, and so, I think culture is our way to heal, it's our way to connect, it's our way to develop our sense of identity. And when I was on my path to breaking intergenerational trauma, it was a natural fit to have, culture and have art come together to really help me on my path. That's really helped me reclaim who I am as an Indigenous woman, but it's also helped me instill a sense of belonging, not only with my own children, but with all people. I think we are all Indigenous to somewhere. We just have to find where our roots are.
For sure, yeah. So how did your musical journey start, and how did music help you not only to connect to your roots, cultural roots, but also to empower you?
Well, music has just always been an intrinsic part of my life. I just absolutely love music, everything about it. So I've been singing before I could speak. And so my grandfather, my great-grandfather, he gave me the name She Who Sings and Dances with Spirits in a Storm. And so that was my name from a very, very young age. Because even as a little one, as soon as there was a storm, he would hear me singing and I would dance around. And so it made sense that this was my journey ahead. And my voice has just always been that leading factor for me. Whenever I sing, I feel like I'm calling in my ancestors. Whenever I sing, I feel like I'm bringing healing, not only to myself, but those around me. And I find music, it doesn't matter the words that necessarily, so you don't have to necessarily understand the language itself, but when we connect through music, it goes beyond words, it goes beyond language, because it's an intrinsic part of our being.
Yeah. So you do feel that soulful connection, and also, what is a better way than music to express your cultural identity?
Absolutely. Well, I know that personally, music has been a huge part of my journey. But even when I look at things like the way that our youth are stepping into those roles, we've got our dance, which is so incredibly beautiful. It's just that way to express yourself. It's our way to tell stories, because I think stories is truly what connects each and every one of us. But also when we're looking at other parts of not just the dance itself, but the regalia. The regalia tells a story of who we are. It's not a costume, because costumes are for Halloween, but it's a message. So even my regalia, the different colors represent different parts of my story. They represent different teachings. They represent my children and my family. Every skirt that I have has a stripe of blue to represent my boys, and every has a stripe of red or purple or pink to represent my girls, which it's just a gift to be able to share culture in such an outward way. And so it's just beautiful to be able to connect in that way, and to be able to bring everybody into the circle with such beautiful and such a beautiful expression of culture, but it's also such a beautiful expression of survival and resilience, because
Definitely.
for many generations we weren't able to. We weren't able to share our culture, to speak our languages, to sing our songs, to drum, to create our beautiful artifacts, to wear our regalia, to even practice our own ceremonies in our own land, in our own space, because it was illegal from the Government of Canada. And so the fact that we have survived through those dark times, and we are able to show the world who we are in such a beautiful way, and with such gentleness and kindness and healing behind it, I think that's truly what resilience is.
For sure. And you are healing through that vibrant music and expression through your dance and art.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that a traditional sash you're wearing?
Oh yes, the sash. This is a Metis sash, and so the Metis sash has a huge just history with just the voyageurs and just trading in general. If it wasn't for the Métis, I don't think we would have expanded as much. But the Métis kind of act as that bridge between Indigenous and non-Indigenous culture. And so when we look at the sash, every color represents something. So the red represents the blood that runs through our veins. The blue represents the waters that connect each and every one of us. The black represent those dark days. We need to stand up so that no people experience that ever again. The white represents our perseverance of spirit. The yellow is the sun that rises every morning. The green is the fertility of the land and the people. And when we weave it together, it's stronger than a single strand on its own.
Such a beautiful message.
Absolutely. Well, everything we have has so much intention behind it. And I think that's what makes it such a beautiful and rich culture and history.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And throughout your journey, did you ever face any setbacks? And how did you deal with those kind of situations to be where you are now?
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, we as a whole of Indigenous people in Canada, we've been experiencing genocide since colonization started to happen. And I know that's a very uncomfortable word for people, but it's the truth. We have faced all sorts of adversity, but we are still here, we are still standing. There's institutionalized racism in all institutions, whether it be the healthcare, the education industry, whether it be social justice or social industry. There are just unsurmountable blocks in our way as Indigenous people. And I'm very blessed that I've been able to have the gifts that I have so that I can bring people in and educate people in a good way. Because I think that's what we need to do. I mean, if we're just talking about these issues, but only to the people that we know, well, then nothing's going to change. But we need to share our messages with everyone and bring everyone together in our community. So in our language or in our culture, we say all my relations, because it teaches us that we're all related. So the plants and the animals and all of the people, we are all related. So we have different things to learn from each other, but it teaches us that we're all together in our community. And so as soon as we really recognize that, we can start to recognize that, we all have different things to learn from each other. We all have to step together without judgment, because we need to do that for the future of all of our generations.
Definitely. And how do you see yourself taking forward this traditional drumming to bring cultural awareness?
Well, I find that when you play the drum, there's drumming in every single culture. And it's this way of just drawing people together. It brings people in, and it opens the door for those conversations. When you hear a beautiful voice along with that beautiful drum, it just opens up, and you want to learn, you want to step forward, you want to lean in. Same with stories, really rich and incredible stories. They bring people together. And it's a way to teach people our history, but in a gentle way, in a way that is more empowering than victimizing.
You also have been very actively involved in conducting various events and workshops to bring the cultural awareness, also towards building bridges and acceptance. So could you tell us about what you do in these kinds of workshops?
Oh, certainly. So I teach workshops to people of all ages. So anywhere from like pre-K, where I show up with my drums and I drum and sing with little guys, to university, to even elders. I've worked with elders organizations and sharing anything from the drumming and the singing and the storytelling and the songs to making medicine bags and talking about the medicine wheel. So the medicine wheel it's not just one thing, it's everything. It's our way of looking at the world around us. It's about recognizing the balance in all of things. Even my skirt, it represents the medicine wheel because I have the 4 colors of the medicine wheel on it. My hair thing is the medicine wheel. I honestly, the medicine wheel is how I live my life. It's all about balance. So it's honoring our mind, our heart, our physical body, and our spirit that fuels the whole thing. It's the 4 directions. It's the 4 elements. It's the 4 times of the day, of our lives. And 4s are pretty predominant everywhere in the world. But it teaches us that we need that balance of all things to be able to thrive and to be able to grow, not only on a personal level, but as an entire community. I have taught people how to make drums, and I think a lot of times people come to my workshops thinking, oh, I'm going to make a drum. And then by the end of it, they're crying because they've gone through this transformation process where they're healing and they're getting out a lot of this built up trauma and pain, and they're able to address it in a different way. So when I create things, it's not just like you're making something. It's that you're learning so much about everything from the past, everything about your ancestors, but also about yourself. And so all of these things that we create together, it's part of this healing journey. When we actually never had a word for art in our languages, because it was just our way of being. It's our way of connecting.
It's part of life.
Exactly.
And how exciting it must be for the kids actually to build a drum from scratch and go through that whole experience.
Absolutely. And even with something like a dream catcher, where a lot of people see the dream catcher, and now a bunch of them are made in China. But when you actually sit down with people who carry the knowledge of the dream catcher and understand that it's not just one thing, it's everything. Like the webbing represents the web of life and how we're a single strand that connects to all of these different points. But there's all of these teachings and this beautiful story behind it. And it gives so much more of a context and a richness to it. And it's more meaningful, I think, when you create something.
So when did you actually realize that advocating for Cree nations and your traditions is what your passion is, and this is what you wanted to do?
Ever since I was little.
Oh, really?
I've always been a social justice advocate. I'm like, that's not right, that's not fair, when I was little, all the way into, I think the first time I actually went to a protest, I was 10 years old, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to give voice to the voiceless. I want to raise these issues, but I want to do it in a kind way, in a gentle way, because I think sometimes if we see protesters, but the message is very angry, we just shut down. But if we see a rally and we see what the passion that's there, and we see just the changes that it's possible, anything is possible if we work together, we actually see the hope and we see why it's important and we see the beauty behind it. I think that's truly when we can make mountains move. And we can only do that together.
in light of recent events, it has become evident that there needs to be massive steps taken towards healing and reconciliation in Indigenous groups. And how do you see other communities coming to help as allies in this initiative?
I think one of the biggest things that any community can do is actually acknowledge what has happened. Because once you acknowledge that past, then we're able to come together to heal from it. We need truth before reconciliation. And so by doing something as simple as inviting in Indigenous elders or knowledge keepers or people with that experience and welcoming them into your community to be part of that community, I think that is such a huge gift and a way that we can bring all those things together.
Right. So have you been involved with any kind of organizations, and what kind of support do you get from Cree groups?
Well, it's not just Cree. So even though I am Cree, I think I have a focus on all Indigenous relations because it's important to get the voice out there. And I think a lot of times people almost think Indigenous is like one and the same, but it's not. And so it's important to speak for many, many different groups and bring many different elders from all different nations together. And I've worked with everything from the University of Calgary, the National Music Center, like the City of Calgary, of course, but organizations across Alberta. And with all of the restrictions with COVID, it actually was a double-edged sword because I was able to work with organizations across Canada to be able to do online teachings and online drumming and singing and speaking. But I think it's good to be in person. I really love being in person. I missed faces. But at the same time, I think that voice and that message needs to be shared with the world.
What kind of message would you like to give our younger generations to promote their own cultural traditions and also contribute to multiculturalism?
Be proud of who you are. Be proud of where you've come from. Don't compare yourself to other people because they're not on the same journey as you. When I work with youth, that's one of the main themes, is for them to find their own path and to carve out their own path. And when we're so busy looking at other people, sometimes we forget to really focus on ourselves. I think we need to shift that. For healing, it's really about deeply connecting to our own ancestors and our own ways of knowing and recognizing that we have value. Our society has told us for so long that Indigenous people have no value. But when we reclaim our culture, when we reclaim our music and our drums and our dance and our regalia and our stories and our ceremonies, it shows exactly how much value we have and how deep those roots go into Mother Earth.
Definitely. For enthusiasts like myself, how would you recommend to get to know more about Indigenous arts and culture?
Well, there's so many events that are happening and continue to happen. If you want to be involved with some of the community events that are happening, for example, there is every year we do Orange Shirt Day, and that's to represent the children that we've lost in residential school. So I often wear this, which says "Every Child Matters." So you can look online for orangeshirtday.org or Orange Shirt Day events that are happening within your area. It's usually on September 30th, and that's that event. We also do Sisters in Spirit, and that's to reach out and talk about murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, which is a huge, huge issue in all of Canada, in all of North America. And so we march for those women, and we march for their families, and we show that justice needs to be served, and their voices have not been silenced. We make sure that we empower women to take responsibility for themselves and to come together as a community to protect each other, but also to give voice to the voiceless, which is so important. Yes. And so that's every October 4th. And then we do another march for murdered and missing Indigenous women every Valentine's Day, February 14th, to show that they are loved and they are missed and they were a valuable part of our communities. Unfortunately, with the media, sometimes they vilify Indigenous people when we need to celebrate Indigenous culture and our resiliency.
Even now?
Even now, especially now. There It's unfortunate that we're still facing a lot of those barriers, that we're still facing a lot of that racism, and we're still facing a lot of challenges, but I know that we're not the only community that's facing that. You know, we have seen that in recent years, just how it's escalating, but also people are becoming more aware of it. And I think as we come together as allies, that's truly when we're going to see those changes occur on a massive level.
As much as we are looking to promote for multiculturalism, and it is sad that there's so much of racism at different levels going on in the society, and there is a need for all the communities to come together and build that awareness and fight for it together.
Absolutely. Well, and I think when we recognize that we're not so different, that we're actually so deeply connected and we can support each other in those fights, then we're actually going to see those changes occur.
So coming to your performance for ICMF 2021 that you and your group will be presenting, could you tell us something about that performance?
So with the drumming and the dancing, so each of the dancers have chosen a song to dance to, and that fit the theme of the dance itself. And so I will explain the dances when we're up there, but we have the 4 different kinds of dances, the hoop dance, the jingle dance, the traditional dance, and then the fancy dance. And we have those 4 young girls that are going to be performing and presenting that. And it just always gives me such joy to see our youth taking the stage in that way and seeing the youth reclaim their history and their heritage, because that's truly where our hope is. It's within the youth.
It's empowering them.
But each of those stories is such an intrinsic part of, you know, our resilience.
Yes, it is. Would you like to sing a song for us before we conclude this session?
Absolutely.
And your beautiful drum is waiting for us.
Definitely. So the song I'd like to share with you, this is called the Creator Song. And so it reminds us that we all share the same sacred breath, the same sacred breath that we've been sharing for time immemorial with the plants and the animals and the trees. But it's the same winds that we all breathe, and it recognizes that we are all one, we are all together. And it teaches us that sacredness of all of creation, and we're part of that. We're not above it or below it, but we're part of it. And so that's why the song is such a blessing to be able to share. This song was actually gifted to me from a friend of mine, Knight's son. And when she shared it with me, I knew it. And I was like, I don't know why, but I know this song. And what was really incredible about it is after I learned it, which didn't take much time because I knew it, I brought it over to my great aunt who is in care. And I was drumming and singing, and she started singing with me. I'm like, Auntie, you know this song? She's like, how do you know this song? This is our family song. Where did you find it? And so it's amazing how those things will come back around.
They do. Did you make this drum yourself?
I absolutely did. Yeah. So this is my moose drum, and it teaches me never to throw anything away. And we know, as Indigenous people, you always use every part. Yeah, everything. But because you don't want anything to go to waste. You know, we didn't have garbage men, 100 years ago. So we had to make sure that we used every part of the being, every part of the buffalo. And this drum reminds me of that, because when I was gifted this hide, I was pretty sure it was pretty rotten, and it was kind of crunchy, and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use any of it. But I knew better than to just throw it away. And so I soaked it in my bathtub because it was quite a large hide, and it smelled awful because I don't know if you've ever made drums. They don't smell good.
Never.
But as I laid it all out on the table, I was able to find this beautiful part. And this part, the white part, I thought was going to be the most rotted and weak, but it turned out to be the strongest part of my drum. So it teaches me never to throw anything away, because sometimes those things that we dismiss and throw away are the most beautiful and sacred things of all.
How long did it take to make this drum?
This drum took me, to soak it, it took me a couple of days. And then to cut it out and to weave it, it took me about 4 hours. But I'm pretty fast when it comes to that. There's some drums that have taken me about an hour, and then some drums that have taken me 16 hours because of how detailed they are. But it's really about the journey that you have with each of the drums as you make them.
So how many have you made so far?
Oh my gosh, over 1,000.
Wow.
I have made a lot of drums. I have been drum making for over 15 years, but I've also helped people make drums. And so, yeah, it's been a beautiful way to share with the greater community, to be able to connect people, to be able to help people with their path, and give them the healing tools that they need to be able to reclaim who they are and be able to move forward, connecting to their ancestries.
Which is so important.
Absolutely.
I'll just...
Cool. I'm going to stand up. You don't have to.
Wow, that was so wonderful, and thank you so much for such soulful rendition. I love that drum beat. It's so enchanting, you know, the way it sounded. Everything is so beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
And also thank you for sharing your stories and experiences with our audience today. We look forward for more collaboration with you, and wishing you all the very best for your future endeavors. And we also look forward for your performance at ICMF 2021.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for your support.
Tanse, Oki, bonjour, hello. My name is Chantal Chagnon. I am Cree, Anishinaabe, and Metis from Muskeg Lake Cree Nation in Saskatchewan, which is in Treaty 6 territory. But today, we stand on the land of the Treaty 7 people. This place is known as Mokinstis. And Nose Hill is quite special, because this was the lookout point, where we would see people coming from miles around, and we would know how to welcome them in a good way. I would like to welcome you in a good way today, by acknowledging the land upon which we stand, and honoring the families that have been here for time immemorial. I honor the Blackfoot of Siksika, Kainai, and Pagani. I honor the Sarsi Dene, or the Tsutsuna, also known as the Beaver people, and the Stoney Nakoda from Morley, which includes Chiniki, Bears Paw, and Wesley First Nations. We're also walking in the footsteps of Métis Region 3, which is why I proudly wear my Métis Sash, to act as that bridge between Indigenous and non-Indigenous culture. When we acknowledge the land, we're actually acknowledging far more than that. We're acknowledging the history that is steeped into this land, and we're acknowledging the relationships that connect each and every one of us to each other and to the earth. I would like to share with you the Cree welcome song to welcome everyone in a good way. Traditionally, when we sing songs, we sing in rounds of 4 to honor the 4 directions of the medicine wheel. But this song is a little bit different. We actually sing it in rounds of 3, and that's to keep the circle open and welcoming so everyone completes the circle today. Because in a circle, we're all connected. There's no beginning, there's no end, no one is greater or less than anyone in the circle, just like in the hoop of life. So it teaches us to honor each other for those differences. Because if everybody was exactly the same, the world would be incredibly boring, and nothing would ever get done. So we need those differences to make our communities thrive. Miasin, which is the Cree welcome song, is from the Natahau family from Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, and I honor that family for keeping this song alive and for keeping the story behind it alive. Because for so many generations, we couldn't. We weren't allowed to speak our languages, to share our stories, to share our songs, to practice our traditional ceremonies, or even to wear the regalia that I'm wearing this day. It's a blessing to be able to see how resilient a culture can be, because in spite of all of those limitations, we still remain here. We remain strong, and we remain entrenched in the voices of our ancestors. Miasin doesn't just mean welcome. It also means beautiful. Miasin, miasin, hasemina, hasemina, e petakote, niwagomagan, hota, Homa kitaskino miasen miasen hasemi na ote Niwagomagan Hota Homa Kitaskino Miasin Miasen Hasemina Hasemina e petakote niwagomagan hota homa kitaskino. Hi, and welcome to the circle today. Tanse, Oki, Bonjour. The dance we'd like to share with you today, this is called the Women's Traditional. When we dance this dance, it's about connecting to the earth. It's about how sacred women are as the life bearers and life givers and the keepers of the earth. It teaches us how to walk gently upon the earth. It teaches us how to always leave the roots of plants in the ground when we pick them. It teaches us how to sustainably harvest all that we need and never take more than what we need, and always leave some there for our future generations. This dance is about stepping lightly, but being proud of who you are and where you've come from. This is the Women's Traditional. And the song we'll share is called the Women's Honor Song, and it is from Joan Henry, who is a Arapaho and Cherokee. Anageya, weha weha, The next dance we're going to share is called the Jingle. When we look at this dress, there are 365 combs on it to represent the 365 days of the year. These are days that we need to give gratitude. These are days that we need to ask for healing. And these are days that we need to connect to the earth and to ourselves and to each other. This dance is a healing dance. And many, many people will come together and dance this dance. And the sound that it makes, it sounds like thunder and rain and rushing water, because that truly is healing. So the song I will share is called The Water Song. And in it, you might hear the ocean or the river or the rain. No matter what, you will hear water, which is our healing medicine. This is the water song and the jingle dance. Wishita do ya wishita do ya day. Wishita do ya wishita do ya day. Wishatania hey ya hey ya. Wishatania hey ya hey. Wishatania hey ya hey ya. Wishatania hey ya hey. Wishita do ya wishita do ya day. Wishita do ya wishita do ya day. Wishatania hey ya hey ya. Wishatania hey ya hey. Wishatania hey ya hey ya. Wishatania hey ya hey. Wishita do ya wishita do ya day. Wishita do ya wishita do ya day. Wishatania hey ya hey ya. Wishatania hey ya hey. Wishatania hey ya hey ya. Wishatania hey ya hey. 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 Wishita do ya wishita do ya day. 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 The song I'd like to share with you is called the Strong Woman's Song. This song is an Anishinaabe and Cree song, and it teaches us about honoring the strength of the woman, the perseverance of the woman. This originally was known as the Turtle Song, for we reside on Turtle Island, which is our beautiful Mother Earth. It teaches us about honoring the sacredness of women, for like the moon, we cycle every 28 days, and it shows us how we need our female ancestors or we wouldn't be here. This is the Strong Women song. Fancy. The next dance that we're going to share with you is called the fancy shawl also. This is also known as the butterfly dance. So with the beautiful shawls, they catch the wind in such a beautiful way, and they mimic the way that a butterfly will dance on the land, the way that a bird will dance on the land. So this is our way to honor all of those things in nature. This was also called a healing dance. It's an Anishinaabe dance, and it had came forth through a dream that a father had to save the life of his daughter. So in the dream, he had created this beautiful sash for her. He wrapped it in her, and then, after not walking for almost a year, she was able to not only get up and walk, but she also was able to dance with the butterflies. And this is where this dance originated from. And so, this is the fancy shawl dance. And the song that I will share is also a bird song. This is the raven song. The next dance we're going to share with you is called the hoop dance. When we do the hoop dance, it's a storytelling dance. And so there are different formations that happen within the hoops. And these are supposed to tell you about your life path. So whether it be an eagle soaring, or a basket being held, or a warrior, these different things that you will see within the hoops will tell you about the path that you're on. The drum song that I'm going to be sharing with you is called the Bear Song. And the bear teaches us about strength and courage. It's the strength to stand up for what's right, and the courage to be ourselves. The bear teaches us so much about how to live on the land, and we need to pay that respect back to the land. This is the Anishinaabe Bear Song, and this is the traditional hoop dance. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to be able to share our traditional culture, our ways of knowing, and our ways of being on this earth. The song that I'd like to share with you to send you off in a good way is called the Traveling Song. It's to teach us that all paths lead us home. It reminds us that at our core, we know exactly where we're going and how to get there. We just have to be able to trust that our ancestors are leading that path for us. It reminds us to always think 7 generations behind and recognize all of the sacrifices that our ancestors have made to bring us to this moment, and also to think 7 generations ahead, to leave a better world for all of our future generations. This song leads us home, wherever that may be. This is the Traveling Song.